That was the most money I'd ever spent on a plant, and it was tiny and it died. I'm pretty sure that this plant came with rot in it already. I'm pretty sure I forgot to water before going on holiday, and when I came back from holiday, they were dead. This next one I am upset about though, because it was a present given to me by one of you. Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing the final spooky dooky episode of my Halloween 2023 series. It is very nearly Halloween, and so it's time to do my annual plants I've murdered this year video. Because I am a plant murderer. I murder plants all the freaking time. All the time. And so I'm going to be going through with you all of the plants that I have murdered since last Halloween, when I made my last video. I definitely recommend going and checking that one out if you want to see what I killed last year. And yeah, before we get into it, I just want to say if you're new here and you don't know me already, hi, my name is Emma and I make houseplanty content all over the internet, and I promise I'm usually really good at it, but sometimes we all kill plants and so it just happens. So if you do want to follow along with my houseplanty journey and maybe learn something along the way, stick around, watch some more of my videos, and subscribe to my channel if you're not new here. Thanks for coming back, I really appreciate it. Let's talk about plants that I have killed. Oh, okay. So basically what I do is whenever I kill a plant before I throw it away, I like to take a picture of it or a video in order to help me remember which plants I have killed and hopefully why they died as well, so I can talk about them specifically in these Halloween videos each year. And I think it's good to reflect on things and figure out if there's anything I could have done better, or if there's a recurring theme, which there almost always is one, and we can talk about that later, but really get into it. So that being said, I couldn't really find any pictures of anything that I'd killed for all of November and most of December. I just don't have any images of anything that was dead or dying until the end of December, which I have this one here. This is a Syngonium of some sort, potentially a white butterfly, maybe. You can't really tell because the leaves have obviously gone super duper yellow here and are super duper dry. But this one died because I think I forgot to water it before I went away to Joe's parents for Christmas, and I came back and it was very, very dry and dead. The roots had gotten a bit too dry for me to revive, and so I threw it out. I've also kind of been very over Syngonium for a while now, so I'm not surprised that I was just like, I don't need to revive this one. I probably could have chopped it to the base and tried to regrow it, but I didn't feel like making that sort of effort for it, so I didn't. And then again, we go a few months without me having any sort of dead plant pictures, which could either mean I did a really good job or I just forgot, probably the latter. But the next one that I have is of my baby Alocasia Melo. So this was one that my friend Josie gave to me when she was moving out of the country. She gave me the Alocasia Melo so I could hopefully do better with it, because the one I had previously had died. So this was my second Alocasia Melo. And this one I also massively struggled with. I don't think I did anything particularly wrong with this one. I kept it in very similar conditions to how I keep other alocasias, and it just did not want to live. It didn't, I don't think it ever gave me a new leaf. This was the original leaf that it had on it, and you can see it's like freaking wrinkly and gross, and it looks like it's dried out, but I don't think I would have let it get fully dry. I'm usually pretty on top of keeping my stuff in pon and semi-hydro and in general my alocasias moist, but I just apparently couldn't with this one. I have heard since that there was like a batch of Alocasia Melos that were just like in general very, very weak and unable to come back from stressors, and I don't know if that's true, but I did hear that somewhere, so I'm going to blame it on that. That one wasn't my fault. I'm calling it. It just wasn't, because both of the Melos I had, the exact same thing happened. They just didn't function. Up next we have the Philodendron Verrocosum. This one I let get too dry, of course. I also find them massively, massively sensitive to underwatering. More than any other philodendrons I have. I tend to treat my philodendrons fairly similarly, and the amount of care that I'm able to give most of them is absolutely fine. But then when I give the exact same amount of care to my verrucosums, they're like, this is not enough, and freak out and die. I've also found that they are massive, massive, massive thrip magnets. So when this verrucosum dried out because I probably forgot to water it for like 1 second, it dried out and died. And this is not the only verrucosum in this video as well. So looking forward to that one too. Next we've got the Syngonium Half Moon, which is one that I got in an import that arrived in February when I was away in India. So Claire took it in for me, and it was doing okay when I got it. Like, she acclimated it as best as possible, and it was doing okay when I got it. And I think it had plenty of roots, so I had potted it up into soil. And then it just did not like that. I find Scindapsus tend to be quite difficult to get to root and to transition from whether it be moss or water to soil. They tend to be a little bit more sensitive, especially the more uncommon varieties, and they tend to be quite slow growing. And so I think this one was probably some sort of acclimation issue, maybe going from Claire's house to mine, and or underwatering. Are you seeing the theme yet? I feel like it's pretty freaking obvious what it is. I found this picture of what looks like a baby Alocasia. Pretty sure that's what it is. Can't really identify it from here. Probably just a corm that I let dry out too much. It looks like it dried out too much, and so I threw it away. Oh, this next one is a sad one. Oh my goodness. I was so freaking upset about this plant because it was, in general, fairly new. So, this was what my Hoya New Guinea ghost once looked like in the prime of its existence, when it was new to me. Very beautiful. Loved that like light blue silveriness of its leaves. And then they kind of went like pinky purple when they were sun stressed in my cabinet. But I must have been doing something wrong, or it had pests or something, because I slowly watched it die. Basically, it dropped more and more and more leaves, and I think it probably had flat mites, because I definitely have flat mites in my collection now, and there's ones that I know that were living by it at that time that have / had flat mites, so probably had flat mites. And also, it very well could have been in a spot that was a little bit too bright for it. I think this Hoya isn't quite as hardy as some of my other ones were, or it wasn't used to the sort of bright light that it was getting. It was living in my Rudsta cabinet before I turned it into a cacti cabinet. It was just, I think, probably a little bit too hot and bright. The Arcadia Jungle Dawn light that I have in there is intense, hence why I turned the whole cabinet into a cactus and succulent cabinet. But I think it might have also contributed to the downfall of this plant. It basically just lost all its leaves, and so there was no saving it. So that one in the trash, and that was very sad because it was really freaking expensive. That was the most money I'd ever spent on a plant, and it was tiny and it died, which was really, really, really annoying. In May, I finally lost this little succulent here. It was actually the only one at the time that I had lost since transferring my cacti and succulents into semi-hydro in December. This one, I don't think it took very well. Something was not right with it, and it just kind of started losing all of its leaves slowly. And by the time May rolled around, it had lost almost all of them, and so I was checking it out, and I also found a mealybug on it. Just one, just a random one, no mealybugs in the rest of my collection as far as I know, but suddenly just having a mealybug on it felt a little bit weird, but I'm gonna blame the mealybug. for not letting this one live and sucking all of its life juice out of it. So yeah, this is the only plant that I've lost to mealybugs. Or a mealybug. I don't know. But yeah, it was very odd, and I don't know how it happened, how it got into my collection, or if it came with mealybugs or what, but I threw it out immediately. In June, I lost one of my 3 Hoya Clemensiorum leaves. So this was an import as well, and when I got it, it was a long sort of stick that I chopped into 3 pieces, and I popped the top 2 ones without any roots into water to root, and the bottom one, which had roots on it, I put it into soil to hopefully grow. And the one in soil did not fare well. I don't think the roots were doing well enough after the acclimation to support its life, so it slowly just started declining. Luckily, I do still have the other 2 and they are thriving and putting out new growth, but this one just didn't want to live, so it went in the bin. I've got this one labeled as a tray of small things, aka various small plants that I'm pretty sure I forgot to water before going on holiday, and when I came back from holiday, they were dead. I find small plants, you really have to be careful about watering them because they dry out a whole lot faster, and so you just gotta keep a little bit of an eye on them and probably water them before you go on holiday, is the moral to that story there. So I didn't really care about most of these, so it was okay, but this was also when I lost my original Lepismium Bolivianum. So I loved this plant. It's cuttings that I got from Claire, and I potted it up, and it was part of me getting into jungle cacti, and it was doing really, really well for quite a while, and then suddenly it just started to go brown. Like there was spots of it that just went brown and started growing more brown, and I think it might have had thrips, potentially. It's a little bit complicated because I'm pretty sure my fishbone cactus, which was right next to it, also had thrips at the time, so I don't know. But you can see it's like gone super duper brown. At the same time though, it did bloom, which is very exciting. It probably was a death bloom trying to like get out the last of its genes before it died, but I'm really glad that I got to see it and experience the Lepismium Bolivianum bloom, even if this plant ended up dying and going in the bin. Not really sure if this was during this month or what, but at some point in the last 12 months, I lost one of my Discorea Discolor cuttings that I received at the plant swap in April, I believe, or October, one of them. I let them get too dry and they died, unfortunately. Very, very luckily, they were from a friend of mine and he was able to give me more, so I do have new ones now that are thriving and doing very, very well, and I'm being much more careful about underwatering them. I have them in semi-hydro instead of soil because they also do not tolerate drought well, so I think I just let that one get drier than it needed to be, and that original one died. My beautiful darling Syngonium snake scale was looking magnificent right when I put it on the plank. It was gorgeous. And then I put it in my Rudsta cabinet, and those of you who've been following me for a while probably know that I have issues with watering stuff that is in the office because that is where we have our laundry up, and it kind of just blocks access to a bunch of these plants, specifically the Rudsta. And so any plants that I had in the Rudsta were not getting near enough water for them to be happy, and also getting really intense Arcadia Jungle Dawn grow light, which was a very bad combination for a lot of things, including this Syngonium snake scale. You can see here it crisped up like crazy and just didn't function. I also could not for the life of me get it to attach to the plank even when I was watering it very frequently, so I'm not sure. I feel like it just needed way more humidity than I could give it, because I thought that the cabinet was humid enough. It was like over 60%, but it wasn't, and it just didn't attach, and so it dried out and died. So I technically still have this plant, even though I believe it is past the point of no return, dead. My Calathea Ornata, in July time I found spider mites on it along with my Alocasia Melo and my banana plant. And so I was treating that, and a few people told me that I should chop it back to the base of the soil and keep treating it as normal, and just physically removing the spider mites that way would work and it would grow back again. So I chopped it all up and then nothing happened. It's just been sitting like this for months and months now, and I think I'm at the point where I'm just going to throw it away because nothing is happening with it. Not a single ounce of new growth is coming in, so there's kind of no point to me keeping it anymore, which is really sad because this was one of my wishlist plants that I got last year, and now it's no longer with us again. Joy. These baby Anthuriums, I don't actually have a picture of them in their prime because they were so small and like not that exciting visually. I never took a picture of them when they were at their prime, but I think I forgot to water them and they just dried out and died. So that's that. Again, the recurring theme of I am a massive underwaterer. And that is how most of these plants die, and I think part of it is me needing to be more on top of it. But alas, I'm still here and I still have most of my plants. Surprisingly, I've got way more plants that I keep alive than I kill, even despite this long list I have here. In August, this one was not my fault. Not at all my fault. I'm pretty sure that this plant came with rot in it already. So this small cactus I got in my conservatory archives haul of cacti. I got it in a bundle of 8 rare cacti, and all the other ones were doing really, really well. I went to repot them all into semi-hydro because that's how I found I can grow cacti and succulents best for me. And I tried to pull it out of the pot and it was just rotted in the middle. And this was like maybe a week or 2 after I'd gotten it, so I hadn't watered it or anything. It had to have been from before I got it because I hadn't done anything to this plant thus far. And so there's no way I could have suddenly caused it to spontaneously rot in this time. So I don't blame myself for this one, but it died in my care, so I have to put it on this list. Oh, I was also really devastated about this one. This was my Hoya Polyneura Broget, which I got last October, so like a year ago, at the plant swap, and I was so excited for it. I was able to get it to root, and I potted it up, and I'm pretty sure that my New Guinea ghost gave it flat mites because they were kind of right by each other, because the new growth that came in was stunted. It went yellow. Was really weird. And then when I finally decided that I was gonna bid it, I had a close look at it, and lo and behold, there were flat mites upon it. So yeah, that was annoying. And instead of treating it because it looked so meh, I just threw it in the bin, unfortunately. Another casualty to flat mites was my Hoya Grey Ghost, which I got I think 2 years ago now, for specifically a Halloween video talking about plants with spooky names, Hoya Grey Ghost. And I got it as this 2-leaf cutting. And over the course of the last 2 whole years, it did not grow a single leaf. Not one, not at all, no growth on this one. None. In the whole 2 years I had it. And so when I found flat mites in my Millsbow cabinet, the big one, I saw that it had flat mites on it, and instead of treating it, I just decided that I cannot be bothered. It had been 2 years with absolutely no growth. Maybe that was how they got into my home originally. I'm not sure, but it just felt like there was no point in keeping it. It was just dead and gone. And maybe it wasn't dead, but it was gone so far and it hadn't done anything in 2 years that it just didn't even feel like it was my plant at all, ever. So I deemed it dead and threw it away because I didn't feel like dealing with the flat mites either, which I am currently now dealing with, like needing to all over my whole collection. But that's a story for a different video. Told you I'd have another Philodendron Verrocosum on here. This beautiful plant that I do really, really like the look of. Again, I'm pretty sure this one was underwatering as well. It is just one that cannot deal with that at all. This one also might have had thrips. Like I said, very susceptible to pests and underwatering, whereas almost any of my other plants, and especially the Verrocosum hybrids, would be absolutely fine in this situation. The Verrocosums just freak out and faint and die. And so I've officially sworn off Verrocosums for now, unless it's a hybrid. Because the hybrids tend to do really, really well for me. I feel like that hybridization, the mixing of genes, typically produces a stronger plant. And so I've had much more luck with things like the Splendid and the Majestic, which are both Verrocosum hybrids, but the Verrocosum itself, not for me, doesn't work for me. I'm not going to be continuing to keep it in my collection. I will not trade for them anymore. It does not make sense for me to have them. So, goodbye Verrocosum. R.I.P. You're never going to be mine anymore. Again, I'm not totally sure when this happened, but I know now that I do not have this plant that I received in April time. My Begonia looking glass that I was propping in those little water beads from my TikTok plant hack experiment video. I think I forgot to refill the water on that one, and so it just kind of dried out and died, unfortunately. That's the problem with water props. If you don't refill them, they're not gonna live, and I didn't refill this one, so it didn't live. And then finally, we are in October, within the last month. These are some plants that have died on me. Oh, all of them are cacti and succulents actually, which is funny enough. The first one is my Buddha's Temple succulent. This one was doing really, really well in the Rudsta originally in soil. It really liked it. It was thriving under the bright light, even when my Hoyas weren't. And then I transferred it to semi-hydro, and I really don't think it liked that change, and I didn't water enough within the semi-hydro because I water them all about once a month, maybe a little bit less. Like all of my cacti and succulents in one big water because it's way easier. So it wasn't as happy with that new watering system as some of my other ones were, and so I think it just dried out a little bit too much and died. At the same time, this little twisty cactus, I don't know what it's called officially, I got it from a friend and it just never rooted for me. It never put out new roots. I think I tried to start it in semi-hydro, which probably wasn't the best thing for it because I think they probably need more moisture to root. I didn't give it that because it was in the semi-hydro. Never rooted for me, fell out of the pot, and I just decided not to put it back and put it in the trash instead. So that one died from that. Ooh, actually this one isn't a cacti or succulent. My Chamaeranthemum Venosum, I forgot to water that whole shelf in my office, and everything else perked up fine. This one did not. It is dry and crispy, and so I still need to put it in the bin. I still haven't, but I'm going to put it in the bin. This one is not drought tolerant at all. I do quite like it. I think it's a cool, funky plant, but I don't think it's right for me in my home and my plant keeping style, which as you can see is much more lazy plant parents, not watering all the time, which this one did need. Or I could have put it into semi-hydro. That probably would have worked as well. But in the end, I'm not that upset about it. This one I'm not upset about. This next one I am upset about though, because it was a present given to me by one of you, and it makes me so freaking sad. My Rhipsalis Paradoxa Major took a tumble. I was cleaning out my cabinet and I had it on the windowsill and it just got knocked over and fell on the ground. And I tried to put it back in the pot as it was. It looked perfectly normal when I did put it back, but a few days later I noticed that it started to rot. Most of the stems in there, especially the big ones, had gone almost entirely black and were squishy. I probably could have tried to save the ones that weren't, but I felt like the rot was just too much for me to handle in that moment, and since I am trying in theory to downsize, even though I was really sad about it because it was a gift, I just decided that I couldn't save those other small parts, and so most of that plant died, so the rest of it died as well. That is it. Those are all of the plants, I think. Probably not all the plants. There's probably some more in there that I can't even remember. Those are most of the plants that I have killed this year. Oh, it does feel good to share these with you. Like, it's not that I ever try and hide them. I'm never gonna try and hide that I kill plants because everybody freaking kills plants. Even the best, like, horticulturists in the world probably kill plants. And so I don't think it's necessarily something to be ashamed of. And looking back on this, and just knowing myself, I do know that I need to be more on top of watering, especially the baby sort of plants and ones that require more. So it just reminds me that I need to figure out something different with my situation because they're obviously not happy as they are. So, lessons to go on and learn from in the future. That is how I take plant death, as something to help me grow and learn, and I think that's the best way for it. But yeah, I still kill plants, and I think I would say I am proudly a plant murderer. It's okay. I don't do it on purpose most of the time. So that is it. Those are all the plants I've killed in the last year. I really hope you enjoyed this video and hopefully feel less guilty about potentially killing some plants this year yourself. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up down below and leave a comment saying what houseplants you killed this year or other houseplanty things you'd like me to talk about in the future. And don't forget to subscribe for more. Thank you so much for watching. Keep growing. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.